on this. Let me bring in back my guest and former federal prosecutor and former Department of Justice Senior Attorney Tammy Allison. All right, folks were calling for the freedom of Jussie Smollet. I don't know how many, but there were some. I don't know if you were one of them, but he is now free. I want to get your thoughts on this decision by the appeals court.
You know, the decision by the appeals court, as you all just described, is accurate. You know, he has the right to be released on this bond pending the appeal, because we don't want him serving the entire sentence if, in fact, his appeal results in the case being reversed and remanded. So my thoughts on that is a procedural thing that happens, and that does not mean that he is innocent at all.
Exactly. I want folks to understand the appeals court's not saying he's innocent. I would imagine, let me ask you this real quick. When they're making this consideration, and you're talking about letting someone out, he's a nonviolent offender. When you look at letting someone out on bond, the issue is he a flight risk or is he a danger to the community? I think it's clear to say, no one's suggesting at all that those things apply to Jussie Smollet. So my question to you is, did they or do they take into account the strength of the appeals, or is it strictly interest of justice and they look at those factors?
They only look at the interest of justice. I can say that with 100% certainty. No appeals court is looking at the strength of the appeal without going through the entire appellate process first. That would defeat the purpose. So it's a procedural matter that he is entitled to be released without having to serve the entire sentence that he was convicted of before the appeal has the chance to go through, not because of the strength or weakness of the appeal. I want to be very clear on that.
All right, fantastic. Thanks for clearing that up for us. The issue at hand, or one of the major issues in that appeal, Tammy, is this double jeopardy issue. Now, you heard Joy explain some of it. I want to give you a little bit more details and then get your thoughts on it. Basically, what Dan Webb, who was the special prosecutor, he looked into what happened. Here's what he said happened. Kim Foxx, who was the prosecutor at the time, recused herself from the case, but she didn't do it officially. So when she then appointed another prosecutor, that appointment was flawed. He was not in a position to do anything with this case. So anything he did in dismissing charges was invalid. That's their claim. So what do you make of that? Do you think there's a real double jeopardy issue here regarding the fact that he did in fact surrender the $10,000, he did agree to do community service, and the charges were dropped?
You know, Michael, that's a very complicated question, and I want to be very careful not to do what I heard a couple of people doing, which is conflating what double jeopardy is with procedural defects in a case, which could bring rise to other constitutional matters. It could be double jeopardy, or it could just be a deal was on the table that he accepted, and then they took it away and he was found guilty by this jury. And this is something that we saw recently in the case of Bill Cosby, where there was a procedural defect that led to his conviction getting vacated and him being released. And that was something that at the time, Bill Cosby's attorney, Monique Presley, continued to argue that she had to deal with the prosecutors not to charge him. But then after he was convicted and served some time, that conviction was then vacated. So I want to be very careful to say it could be double jeopardy. It could be something else similar to the case of Bill Cosby, but who knows? We have to wait until we see it all play out.
Fair enough, and I'm glad you brought up that Bill Cosby case, because Kim Foxx, in defending what went on at the time when they decided to dismiss the charges, claims that she did in this case what a lot of prosecutors do all the time. They figure things out, make deals. They're in the trenches. They're elected to do that. That's what she did. Let me call up her. She wrote an op-ed for the Sun-Times, which is the paper of record out there in Chicago. Here's what she had to say. Given the reputational price that Smollet paid, the $10,000 bond that we held, and the fact that he'd never been accused of a violent crime, my office made the decision not to further pursue a criminal conviction. This story should have ended there, as thousands upon thousands of non-prosecuted cases do every day. She goes on to say, rather than working, actually, she says this was the criminal prosecution of a hoax, and likens it to the fact there's all kind of open murder cases in Chicago that required much more time. She goes on to say, rather than working collaboratively to stem rising crime or free the wrongly convicted, a small group of people hijacked the judicial system to enact what is best described as mob justice. And so I liken that to the case of Cosby, because the agreement there was questioned, it was problematic, but it was honored. Here it was not. Your thoughts on that?
You know, listen, there's a lot going on here, and I have to be super careful with what I say because I really do not want the viewers to misunderstand anything here. What Kim Foxx is saying is she had a deal with Jussie. The deal was the deal. But for whatever reason, new charges were brought. A jury has found him guilty. This is very similar, as I stated, to what happened in the Bill Cosby case. This has nothing to do with if anyone thinks that Jussie is guilty or innocent. I think he's guilty, okay? But this is procedural, okay? And I think that his attorney Uche, he summarized it perfectly. I really don't have anything to add to what he said at that press conference. Whether you think this man is guilty or not, he has a constitutional right, okay, for several different things that are at play here. But I also want to be very careful not to conflate our push for criminal justice reform with what Jussie is saying, that he ain't suicidal, raising up his fist. Nah, don't do that. You're not Nelson Mandela. Like, you're doing the most. Stop, okay? That's completely different than procedural defects that could have made him not entitled to his constitutional rights as a U.S. citizen. Okay, this is me saying that very fresh white rope from Home Depot was a hoax, in my opinion, okay? But at the same time, as a United States citizen, he has a constitutional right not to be tried again whenever he already cut a deal with a prosecutor. Like, make it make sense. And I am not defending this man at all. Like, where's Lee Daniels? Where is Taraji P. Henson, okay?
Yeah.
Like,
they were there early on, Tammy, but they've kind of disappeared now. But your point is extremely well taken. No matter what you think about Jussie, there are serious constitutional issues here that need to be addressed. If this was in fact double jeopardy, then this needs to be dealt with a different way. All right, stand by, Tammy. We're going to take a break.